And welcome back to this custom franchise, guys. As super ready to get this franchise going here. 2022 franchise as in MLB Show 22 as we get this franchise started. So it's a completely custom league. We're going to start off here previewing the National League teams, and then we'll move over to the American League teams. So first off, we're going to start off with the Atlanta Crusaders, and their best player on this roster right now, the best pitcher in the entire game, is Jacob deGrom, 99 overall. Look at these incredible stats. His lowest stat is 80 home run per nine. That is really, really incredible. 78 break is actually his lowest, but I mean his per nines are absolutely ridiculous. Jacob deGrom, I mean everybody knows how good he is. So we do have some teams that we kind of kept from the other MLB Show 20 franchise, as you can kind of see. Atlanta was of course a team that was one of those teams that we just kind of kept over and moved over, and then I did change these jerseys somewhat. Some of the jerseys I kind of updated and made it look a little bit different and made it a little bit cooler. But some of these jerseys are going to be basically the same jerseys that they were in the MLB Show 20 franchise because they were really, really good jerseys, and I wanted to keep them. So you can see the rest of the starting pitching staff here: Frankie Montas, David Peterson, and then Husker Uena, 23 years old, B potential. He's a younger pitcher, and not a whole lot of depth here. They do have Uri Perez, who is a pretty decent pitching prospect there at 18 years old and B potential. Relief pitching here is Seth Lugo is their top reliever. For the most part, these teams are pretty even, as we did a fantasy draft here, and so I don't think, especially with the bullpens, you're not going to see one bullpen be crazy high above any other bullpen really in this game. They're going to be very even on the bullpen side, but Edwin Diaz here is going to be this team's closer. And in MLB Show 20, not the best relief pitcher, but he's doing really, really well in real life, actually. And he's got some decent stats in this game, 88.9 hit per nine. He's got some decent stats there, so we'll see how good he does. And the catcher is going to be Tyler Stevenson, who is 25 years old, so he's a little younger, 79 overall. He's got some potential here for Atlanta. We'll see what happens with him, and hopefully he can grow and get better at 25 years old. 70 and 79 contact stats for Tyler Stevenson. Their backup here is going to be Dom Nunez. Don't have a lot of depth there at the catcher position. But then we go to first base, and their first baseman is going to be Luke Voigt, who has got a lot of power. The defense isn't really there for him, but he's got great power and decent contact, 64 contact, 84 and 90 power. So he's a power hitting first baseman. Second base here, Wilmer Flores. Sorry, I could not get that name out. And then Anthony Rendon is one of their better offensive players here. He's at third base for them, and he's got pretty well-rounded hitting stats there. So I like Anthony Rendon, and he looks pretty good for this offense. And then their shortstop is Javier Baez, and he's got amazing fielding stats, really good speed, and a really good power versus lefty stats. He's really good against lefties, 80 contact and 89 power versus lefties. So he's got some good stats there. And last year was pretty good for Chicago, and he's signed to this team for a while. So they do also have a couple of really nice prospects here. How do you pronounce that? Oliver Peguero. I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce all these names here. There's some that I'm going to need to catch up on. But then they also have Olivas Martinez as well. He's 20 years old and 8 potential. So they got a couple of young shortstops there in their farm system, which will come in handy for them. And then we move over to their outfield here. And starting off in left field for them is Eloy Jimenez. Pretty good hitting stats there. We'll see. I know his durability in this game is pretty low. He does have a tendency to get injured. He's injured in real life. So we'll see if he can stay healthy in this franchise, but he's a pretty decent option there. And then their center fielder is going to be Adolis Garcia. Very good defensively. Started out, played last year and started out the season last year very, very good. But we'll see what he can do in this franchise. And then they do have an outfield prospect here in Colin Cowser, 22 years old and 68 overall. So a decent center field prospect there. And then moving over to right field, Manuel Margot, not that great. Good defense, but the bat not very good. So overall, I think this is a pretty good team. I think they're one of the higher ranked teams in the game, but a decent team there, all things considered. So now we're going to move over. This is the Nashville Stars. Here, they're one of the higher picks in the draft, and their pitching. I like their offenses we're going to see, but their pitching is a little bit concerning, I think. Ranger Suarez is their best pitcher right now, and he's good. He's got some pretty good stats. 85 hit per nine is good, but outside of Suarez, this pitching staff is just not that crazy good, as Noah Syndergaard is their number 2. And then you get Marco Gonzalez and Alec Bettinger. And then they do have Mackenzie Gore as a pitching prospect, though. And Mackenzie Gore will start the season in the majors, so he's going to get a chance here as a rookie. And so hopefully we'll see what he can do in this pitching rotation. Taking a look here at his stats, 67 K per nine. Basically, 50. Most of his stats are pretty similar. 54 for a lot of those pitching stats. They also is DL Hall as well here in the minors. He's got very low walk per nine right now, and B potential, but he is also a top 50 prospect. And then we go to the bullpen, and Trevor May headlines this team's bullpen here at 79 overall. This is a pretty decent bullpen. And then the closing pitcher is going to be Andrew Kittredge. He's got 99 velocity, but he's overall just a decent reliever, not anything crazy good there. Manny Pena is this team's starting catcher, but Francisco Alvarez here is a big minor league player that they have at 20 years old and 64 overall with A potential. So hopefully he can come up here in a couple of years and make an impact on the major league team here in Nashville. Then we look at Paul Goldschmidt. Here is this team's starting first baseman, and in real life, Paul Goldschmidt is playing like a MVP candidate right now. I believe he's batting about like 347 right now in the majors as the season is going to the All-Star break. So I actually do go in here and I decide to kind of make him a little bit better here. I up his contact numbers just a bit. He's very good against lefties, but he is one of the better first basemen in the entire game, actually, and one of the more underrated first basemen, I feel like. So we'll see how he plays in this franchise, but he's a guy that is very intriguing. Gavin Lux is their starting second baseman. Doesn't have great contact versus lefties, but he's all right here at second base. And then J.D. Davis is this team's third baseman, and he's got some decent hitting stats all around. Then Francisco Lindor is this team's shortstop. And Lindor, great fielding stats, pretty decent hitting stats too, but he does have that A potential. Didn't play crazy good when he went to the Mets, but he's a guy that I think could really take off and play very well in this franchise. And then they have one of the better prospects in the entire league here, and Brady House at short. He's only 18 years old, and he's already a 71 overall. This is a guy that honestly could be starting in, 2 years. Probably, I would see him starting in 2 years from now. He's already got almost 60s in contact numbers, and his defense is already pretty good. So watch out for Brady House. He's one of those top prospects that really watching out for here in the future of this franchise. Kind of crazy that he's only 18 years old. And then we go to left field here, and the left fielder is Kyle Schwarber. And, man, he's got 99 power versus righties. He's going to hit bombs. And that's what he's been doing this season in real life, and that's what hopefully he'll be doing for the Stars in this sim. Got very decent hitting ratings, and the fielding stats are all right for him, but that's a pretty good outfielder there, and I like this offense for this Nashville team. I think it's very, very good. And then in center field is the best player. We'll check out right field really quick because it's not very good there. Max Kepler is the right fielder, but then we go to center field, and I think this team had the third or fourth pick in the draft, and with that pick, they decided to go with Mike Trout. And as we have already covered in the MLB The Show 20 franchise, he is, and in real life, he is one of the best. He's the best player in baseball in real life, and in this game is just crazy good. Got an amazing ratings, 92 and 99 hitting ratings against righties, and didn't play a whole lot last year because of injury, then shortened the season, but this guy's already got 310 home runs and almost over 1,400 hits at age 30 going into this sim. I really am intrigued to see what Mike Trout will do in this franchise, as hopefully he will stay healthy throughout the whole thing. And I mean, seriously, Mike Trout does have a chance to really break some serious records, and going to be a big, huge piece, obviously, to the success of this Nashville team here. And I mean, only 30 years old. They have him signed into a really ridiculous contract, as you saw there, and so they're going to have Mike Trout for basically the entirety of this franchise. I mean, they're going to have Mike Trout for a while, so he's one of those guys that this team is going to have to be building around, and really, again, excited to see what he will do in this sim. I mean, again, those hitting ratings, just taking a look at those hitting ratings is just crazy. He is the best pure hitter and the best pure player in this entire sim. One of very few 99 overall guys. So, yeah, Mike Trout, there he is in center field for the Nashville Stars. So now we move over to Charlotte here and the Cougars, and as we again kept this team from episode 20, and their best pitcher here is going to be Clayton Kershaw. AA is 34, 93 overall. This is a guy who's already a Hall of Famer. He has got some ridiculous stats. I mean, a 2.49 career ERA and almost 3,000 strikeouts. Clayton Kershaw is one of the best pitchers in the game, and 34 years old, so he's a little bit older, but still a great starting pitcher there for Charlotte. Great ace to have. And then taking a look at the other guys below him, we got Frambo Valdez, Austin Gomber, Joe Ryan, and Jaime Barria in the Major League team. Not a crazy good pitching staff outside of Kershaw, but it's a decent one. They also have that prospect down there, George Malenka. I believe he is a graded player. Sometimes, when you go through the draft, there are like CPU-made players just to make sure that all the roster spots are filled. So I don't think this guy's actually a real-life player. I think he is more of a graded prospect that the game made up. So, I mean, I might go in and kind of change his name if I want to, but I don't think that guy's an actual real person. But they still have him. He's still got a potential. He's still a top prospect. So not going to change that aspect about him, but I might actually, take a look at some minor league stats and just decide if I want to change his name and make him, be a real person. But either way, that is this team's starting rotation. And then we go to their bullpen here, and Darren O'Day is their top reliever, 39 years old, so he's a little bit of an older pitcher, but he's his 83 overall, which is pretty good for a reliever pitcher there. And then you get those other guys there, and then we get to the closing pitcher spot, and it's Kenley Jansen. Here, he's 34 years old, so a couple of Dodger teammates in real life here are on this team, and Kershaw and Jansen, a couple of Dodger pitchers. So, well, I guess he's pitching for the Braves now in real life, but Jansen and Kershaw used to pitch, both of them in LA before Jansen went over to the Braves, and he's got 99 hit per nine, as you can see there. He's a pretty decent relief pitcher, pretty decent closer. Roberto Perez is going to be this team's starting catcher. Roberto Perez really only known for his defense. His hitting stats really not that great at all. Jacob Nottingham is their backup there. And then at first base, Albert Pujols, who also actually plays for the Dodgers in real life. But, of course, he plays for the Cardinals now. How could I blank on that? That was a big brain fart. He did play for the Dodgers last year, but Albert Pujols here, he's 42 years old. I don't think he's going to stick around. I think this is, I don't know, I'm not simmed any seasons of this game. I don't know if he will retire immediately after the season is over, but he's 42 years old, so he's not going to be around for very much longer, but he's one of the better players in MLB history. So Josh Harrison there at second base. Third base is Justin Turner, who's 37 years old, actually, and another older player here for this team. So a couple of older guys here on the Cougars, but great hitting stats here for Justin Turner. And then at shortstop, a couple of prospects here. Now, Jordan Lawler is going to be at short there at 19 years old. He's 72 overall. And then C.J. Abrams, also a decent prospect. Those two guys at shortstop. It's going to be interesting to see how those two guys play. I'm not sure if Lawler is going to get the actual start for this team, but he is only 19, but we'll have to see. And then over in left is going to be Joey Gallo, and crazy power, off the charts power with 99 and 97, but very low discipline and very low contact rating. So actually very low vision. So probably Joey Gallo is going to be striking out a lot, but also probably hitting some home runs. So we'll see how Joey Gallo plays. It's not really a style of baseball that I necessarily like, but very interesting stats here for Joey Gallo. And then their center fielder is going to be Luis Robert, who's good against lefties for sure. Decent against righties, but he's a pretty good center fielder here at 88 overall, and he's only 24. So he is, one of the bigger stars in this franchise to look forward to for the Charlotte Cougars. And then in right field, another old guy here, Nelson Cruz. So this team is a little bit older. You got Turner, and you have Pujols, and then you have Cruz, both, almost two guys over 40, one guy at 37, and some really great ratings there, though, by Nelson Cruz. He's got a lot of power, for sure. So, an interesting outfield, an interesting team here, to be honest, and we'll see, with all those old guys, how good this team is going to be exactly. But now we move over to the Columbus Cardinals, and we're going to get a look at another older player here in Justin Verlander at 39 years old, and he is, how long he might only stick around in this franchise for a couple of seasons, but then their really ace guy who's going to be this team's ace in the future is going to be Alek Manoah, who is right now only 24, got 86 hit per 9, got good stats all across the board. He should pitch well in this save. Alex Wood is also there, Anthony Descafani, and then Yusei Kikuchi rounding out the pitching. Hunter Green is also here, and he's a guy that right now is pitching in the majors, but I think he'll probably be called up at the deadline at some point this season, but right now he's in AAA. And then Daniel Padilla, I think another created player in this save, so he's also there. And we'll see how those two pitchers go, but a pretty decent pitching rotation. Honestly, I like those two. I like the first top two guys in this pitching rotation for Columbus for sure. Then we go to relief pitching here, and it's not looking all that great as Lucas Ledge, I don't know how to pronounce that last name, is their top relief pitcher, and then Drew Pomerantz is their closer. So not really a great bullpen. Pomerantz, he hasn't pitched very much the last couple of years, but he's actually got really good stats the last couple of years. But overall, don't really like this bullpen. One of the weaker ones that I have seen so far. And then we get to catcher, and, well, you guys should recognize this name because it's Jacob Stallings, of course, the starting catcher in the Miami Marlins franchise that I'm doing right now. So hopefully he doesn't get hurt like he did in our save, but he is this team's starting catcher. Then they also have Shailene Glears, who's 24 years old and 70 overall. He's on the Major League team right now, and we'll see if he can get his shot here pretty soon on this team. But for right now, not going to be a starter, I don't think. But he's got some decent ratings and good potential. And then we go to first base, and it's another name that you guys should recognize. It's Jesus Aguilar. Again, part of a big part of the Marlins franchise. So this team just has all the Miami Marlins in it. Then we go to second base, and it's Gleyber Torres. And then also you look down here, and Vidal Brujan is a good prospect that they have here at age 24. A little bit of an older player, but we will see here as a top 50 prospect and has got overall decent ratings across the board. Pretty even stats for Brujan. And then third base, not looking too great. Sheldon Noisy is their starter right now, but then Josh Jung here at 24 and 70 overall. Josh Jung honestly might be their starting third baseman just because he is a lot better than Noisy is. I would honestly prefer Jung to be starting over Noisy, so we will have to see. I don't know how you pronounce that last name exactly, if it's Noisy or, I'm not sure. That last name is a little bit interesting, but their big player here, their highest rated player on the squad is going to be Trey Turner. 99 contact versus lefties, and 81 contact versus righties. This guy is a contact hitter, very, very speedy. 99 speed, 99 base running aggressiveness. One of the faster guys in the entire league. So, the perfect leadoff hitter for this team, and we will see. I think he's actually probably batting third, but Trey Turner is definitely this team's best offensive player. So, it'll be interesting to see how he does. He's doing really well in real life. So, good shortstop here for the Cardinals. And then we go to left field, and the left fielder is Randy Arozarena. And overall, everybody likes Randy. Got 89 contact and 88 or 89 power. 88 power. So he's very good against lefties. And overall, pretty good stats here for Arozarena. He's only 27, so should get better over the course of this save. A very good left fielder here for the Cardinals. Center field, not that great. Jonathan Davis right now their starter, but Corbin Carroll, we'll see if he actually is going to end up being the starter. He's 21 years old. He's got a potential, so we'll see there who is actually going to be their starting center fielder. And then in right field, it's going to be Mitch Haniger, who has actually got good hitting stats. Not a good fielder, but does have good hitting stats. So we'll see. I believe he had like 39 home runs last year. Yeah, he had 39 home runs and 100 RBIs last season. So, he's a guy that's got a lot of power, that's got pretty good hitting stats. So overall, not a decent, but not really a great team here in Columbus. So now we move over to the Richmond Rhinos, and this team's starting pitching staff looks like this. Walker Buehler, here's this team's ace, only 27 years old. One of the best young pitchers in the entire league, so Walker Buehler should be a very good pitcher in this save. Lucas Giolito here is also another pretty young pitcher at only 27, and he's 84 overall, so a couple of good younger pitchers here at the top of this pitching rotation. And then they also have Jordan Belozovic, who will start the year in the minors, but he's got some good potential there. And overall, a pretty decent pitching rotation here for the Rhinos. I love this team's mascot, actually, and I think that their jerseys are pretty cool. As Jordan Hicks is a younger reliever, actually, at 25 years old. He's a guy that could grow and get better over time. Adam Ottavino is also there. Have a bit of love for him as he played on the Rockies for a little bit. But yeah, Jordan Hicks is really their main guy there. Then Craig Kimbrell is this team's closer. A great hit per nine, great K per nine. Everything else is kind of iffy for his stats, especially the walk and the home run per nine. But overall, Craig Kimbrell should be a pretty good reliever here for the Richmond Rhinos. And then we get to the catcher position here. And Austin Hedges is this team's starting catcher, and not great, but Luis Campusano is their prospect catcher here at 23 years old. And honestly, will be the starter on this team after just a couple of years, because he's got some pretty decent stats already, especially catching wise. He's got some pretty decent stats. First base is going to be Frank Schwindel. Got actually pretty good, decent hitting ratings. Only C potential though, so I think it's going to be hard for him to actually improve his stats. He's also pretty bad defensively. But he's their starting first baseman. Gene Segura at second base. He's got some decent. The defense is decent for him. Got some good contact ratings. So overall a decent second baseman here for the Rhinos. I do like Gene Segura starting there at second base. Not much else in that position. They do have a lot of second basemen and not any depth really there at that position. And then their third baseman, saw in the intro video, is going to be Alex Bregman, who's got 90 contact versus lefties and has overall decent stats, and will not be able to play with the benefit of a trash can here in Richmond, but he's got good enough stats that it probably won't matter. I think he's going to do well offensively this season, so he is probably, I think he's definitely one of their better hitters on offense for sure. And then Nick Ahmed is their shortstop here. Not much there to speak of. Good defense, not good hitting. Not really any depth at this position either. Not really sure I like this offense that much at all. Now we get to the outfield, and Eddie Rosario here is this team's starting left fielder. Don't really like Rosario that much. Only see potential, 78 overall. And then Cody Bellinger here at center. Now, this is a guy that over the past couple of years has really struggled offensively. And in the MLB 20 save, he's one of the better outfielders in the game. But in this MLB Show 22, his stats are really a lot lower. And he's going to have to prove that he can be a good center fielder here in this save, as his stats, a couple of decent ones with the power, but not nearly as good as he was in the last save that we had. And then Josh Naylor here as well as their last outfielder. Good contact versus righties, pretty decent fielding stats, but that is this team's outfield, and that's the team's offense overall. They do also have Joe Adell here, who's probably going to be in the minors for at least 1, maybe 2 more years. I do not like where his hitting stats are at besides the power versus lefties. His contact is not good, and power versus lefties is also not good. So overall, I don't really like this offense all that much. This team is probably just going to be okay. Their pitching is probably going to have to carry them for a lot of the season here in Richmond. So now we get to the Chicago Blue Sox here. Another team that we kept from the MLB The Show 20 franchise, although I did change up these uniforms a little bit here. They're 16th ranked, so they're probably middle of the pack. Rankings wise, as Garrett Cole is their ace. Garrett Cole, of course, he's got great K per 9, and overall a really good pitcher here. Very good, well-rounded stats for Garrett Cole. Should be a pretty good pitcher. Got great velocity at 98 miles an hour, and has a good variety of pitches. But really, once you get past Cole, this pitching rotation is not very good. As Luis Garcia is their second starter here. He's 25, but yeah, not a great pitching rotation outside of Garrett Cole. I see this pitching rotation kind of struggling throughout the year, as Danny Duffy also there as their number 3 starter. Then for prospects here, we are going to go down to Asa Lacy, who is 22 years old and 68 overall with a potential. So, a decent pitching prospect here for the Cubs, and they're probably going to need Asa Lacy to develop because right now their pitching is not very good, as I have pointed out. And then we move over here to this team's bullpen, and Devin Williams is honestly probably one of the better relievers in the entire save here. He's got super good stats. I mean, 99s there for a couple of his stats. Besides that, this bullpen's pretty weak and doesn't have a lot of depth, but Devin Williams, for sure, one of the better relief pitchers in this save, so we'll see if he can pitch well, and he's going to be this team's closer, I would expect, because Duvall, that closer, is not very good, as Omar Narvaez here is their starting catcher, really can only hit against righties. I mean, he absolutely sucks against lefties. Their first baseman here is going to be Brandon Belt, who's got some pretty decent stats against righties, 70 contact and, over 90 power. Adam Frazier is this team's second baseman. Not great stats, 89 vision, but honestly, first and second baseman not looking too great for this ball club right now. And then their third baseman here, this is their best player overall-wise, and one of the better hit players in this save. He's going to be, in real life, he is hitting incredibly well for the Cleveland Guardians, and he's got some great hitting ratings, and Jose Ramirez, he's going to be a star in this save. I can definitely feel that, as he's got some great hitting ratings, and we'll see. He's going to be really a lot of this team's offense here in this season. So 92 power versus righties there, and last year was very good with 36 home runs, over 100 ribbies. As they also have Tristan Casas right now as third baseman, is 67 overall and 22 years old. So third base looks pretty good here for Chicago. Brandon Crawford here is going to be their shortstop. Very good defensively, but offensively a little bit weak. And then we go to left field here, and Alex Verdugo is this team's starting left fielder here, as 88 contact versus righties. Pretty decent stat-wise there, but honestly, the defense is pretty good, but, an overall decent left fielder here for Chicago. And then Akil Baddoo is also here. He's only 23, 74 overall, so we will have to see what he can do. And then center field is going to be Victor Robles, and not great hitting stats for him. Good defensively and good speed, but that's about it. And then Josh Lowe, 24 years old, 66 overall. Right field is going to be Dominic Canzone. So, as you can see, really this offense is going to be carried by Jose Ramirez. I don't really like that team all that much, as we now move over to the Kansas City Monarchs here. And Aaron Nola, starting pitcher, and is their top pitcher here for Kansas City and the Monarchs, as an 88 overall. Pretty much 70s across the board for pitching ratings, and Aaron Nola, a decent pitcher here, pretty good ace for the Monarchs. And then other than that, here in this pitching rotation, you got Zach Gallen, who is a young and pretty promising pitcher here at 26 years old, and a potential. And then Kyle Hendricks, Dane Dunning. And that's, that pretty much ends this team's pitching here, as they don't really have anybody. They do have, I don't really think that guy's a top 50 prospect, to be honest. I don't know why he is listed as one, but they're really pitching here. Colin McHugh is 82. They do have two 80-plus overall relief pitchers here. I do like, the beginning of that bullpen is pretty nice. And then Andrew Chafin and Colin McHugh, I do like that. Closing pitcher, not very good at all. Tyler Wells kind of sucks. He's probably not actually going to be this team's closer. But let me go to catchers, and it's Austin Nola. Not a great catcher. Decent hitting ratings, I guess, but not anything crazy. And then Jose Abreu, really good against lefties, but not great against righties. 87 overall. He's 35, so he's a little on the older side. But a decent player here for the Monarchs. Second base will be Chris Taylor, who does have some pretty good hitting ratings there. And Leonardo Rivas is also on this roster. But yeah, Chris Taylor, starting second baseman, got some pretty decent hitting ratings. And so we'll see what he can do there at second base for Kansas City. And then another older player here in Evan Longoria. And he's at third base there. Played for the Rays for most of his career. Kind of had a renaissance there in San Francisco last year. But decent hitting ratings. Don't expect too much from him. Shortstop is IKF, Isaiah kind of Falefa as not great there. But then their left fielder here is going to be Yordan Alvarez. And we do have universal DH on here in this save. So Alvarez will more than likely just slot in as a DH as this team's designated hitter. Because, man, the defense is not his strong suit. He is an offense-heavy player first, very easily. 92 power, 90 power versus lefties. I mean, this is one of the better hitters in all of baseball. And so we'll probably slide in there as a designated hitter here for the Monarchs. But this team's best hitter on offense here is going to be Yordan Alvarez. So they're going to have to give him some money here after this season is over. And then center field looks like this here, Trent Grisham. Pretty good defense here, beat potential for him. But they have a couple of really good prospects here in Riley Green being their biggest one. He's got pretty decent hitting ratings already and is already a 70 overall with at age 21. He will probably be starting in the outfield at somewhere here for this team, maybe in left, but he's got a lot of potential. Then Alec Tomas is also a good young player here, 21 years old. He's got a potential. He's 67 overall. So a couple of really good outfield prospects here in center for the Kansas City Monarchs for sure. And then we go to right field here, and the right fielder for the Monarchs is going to be Brandon Nimmo. 29 years old, 80 overall. I know that this is one of the guys that in franchise plays really well. Doesn't have great ratings rise, but in every sim that and a lot of the sims that I've seen, he just outplays his overall for sure. But now we go to the Indianapolis Arrows, and I love this team's jersey, and I love this team's logo. I think this is one of the cooler teams that I have made here in this franchise, as Max Scherzer is this team's starter. He's 37 years old, and yet he's still a 97 overall because that's how incredibly good this guy is. A future Hall of Famer, was crazy last season, and who knows how much longer he will be able to pitch in his career, but man, he's got some great ratings right now and is one of the better pitchers in the league. And then behind him is going to be Dustin May, one of the younger, pretty good pitchers here in this franchise, as he's 80 overall, A potential, only 24 years old. So the Arrows hoping that they can get a lot out of him. And then they also have Dylan Cease here, who's another young pitcher with A potential. So, those two guys, and you get, the veteran pitcher and Max Scherzer kind of guiding those two guys as that's a pretty good start to a pitching rotation. I do like this pitching rotation. Johnny Cueto is also on this team, but don't really have a whole lot of prospects to talk about on this team. Don't have any top 50 pitching prospects to talk about here on this roster. But that's a look at their pitching staff. And then their bullpen looks like this here. Relief pitchers at least. As Pedro Baez, 78 overall and 34 years old. He is their best relief pitcher. And Brett Hand also there. So Anthony Dominguez also there. Luke Jackson. So, and then we get to their closing pitching, and it's Garrett Whitlock, who 25 years old, a really young relief pitcher here for the Arrows, and hoping that he can perform very well. I mean, last year in 73 innings was incredible. So hopefully, expecting some pretty big things from him. Catcher is going to be Danny Jansen. Not very good there. The stats are not great for him. Not going to be a very good hitter. Going to be just an okay fielder there at catcher. Then their first baseman here, Vladdy Guerrero Jr. I believe they were in the top 5. They were probably in the top 5 picks. I can't remember exactly what the draft order was, but they did select Vladimir Guerrero Jr. with their first pick in the draft, and my goodness, this is one of the best young players in the entire league, obviously, and last year 48 home runs and 111 ribbies. I mean, this guy is absolutely incredible. He's only 23 years old, and he's already got, just incredible stats. He's just on that next class of really young, talented stars in the game of baseball today, and super, super excited to see what Vladdy does. And Vladdy, in the last franchise, his ratings started lower in ratings than he has in this game, and he turned into, an absolute beast. So Vladdy's going to be a really dangerous hitter in the entire franchise for years to come, and he's going to be the biggest, piece to this offense here for the Arrows. So really exciting to see what Vladdy does this season. Second base here, not much to speak of there. Horbit Vivas, not great. Josh Donaldson here is at third base. He's got 99 power versus lefties, but he is 36 years old, so a little bit on the older side there. But Josh Donaldson is their starting third baseman. Another look at his stats. He's got good power, good discipline, and we'll see. He might be the DH on this team, but decent hitting stats here for Donaldson, and see what he can do at third base as we go to shortstop now. And David Fletcher here, no power at all, but good contact versus lefties, good vision. I don't think he doesn't really ever perform very well in franchise is what I've seen. I haven't really seen a sim where he does play well, but they do have Royce Lewis here in the minor leagues, so David Fletcher, hopefully if he doesn't play well, Royce Lewis can just take over for him. Then we go to the outfield here. Austin Hayes got pretty decent fielding ratings, but he's a starter there. Dom Smith is also in left field for them, and he's got, not great fielding, but better hitting stats. And then move to center field, and one of the other big players on this team is going to be Cedric Mullins. And last year he was the best hitter on a bad Orioles team, and he's got some good ratings here, especially hitting-wise. I mean, batted .291 last year, so he should be pretty good offensively, I would think, and only 27 years old. So a good outfielder here for the Arrows to build around. And then right field here is going to be Zach Veen at 20 years old. Looking at his stats, he might struggle in his rookie year, I will admit, but we'll have to see. He's going to have to be probably thrown in there and just start right away, but hopefully he doesn't struggle too much. But that is the Arrows, and, honestly, it's a decent team. Pitching could be good here. The offense is, it's decent. They got Mullins, they got Vladdy. Not a whole lot of depth outside of those two guys, but a decent team here in Indianapolis. So now I move over to the Minneapolis Millers here, and this team is pitching not very good. I'll be honest. Kevin Gausman is their ace. He's 89 overall, but not a great pitcher there. German Marquez, who, I really like German Marquez because he pitches for the Rockies, but honestly not great ratings in this game. They do have Sixto Sanchez, so there's another Marlins player for you. And, we'll see what Sixto develops into in this sim. But also have Grayson Rodriguez and Casey Mize here in AAA. So they got a couple of, good young pitchers in the farm system. But overall, this pitching staff just not very good. But, we'll see how they do in sim. We go to relief pitching here, and Blake Trinan is this team's best reliever. He's actually a really good relief pitcher. He's got 99 velocity and break and 99 hit per nine. He's a very, very good relief pitcher there. And then besides that, it's not a lot of depth here for this staff, although Andres Munoz is only 23, so, and then they also have Brian Abreu, so they have a couple of actually young relief pitchers, and, hopefully we'll see those guys develop into something maybe. They do have Liam Hendricks, who is one of the top-rated closers in the league here, 93 overall, so he's got a nice overall there, and, of course, last year was very good for Chicago in real life, and he's got very good stats here, so overall, a pretty decent bullpen here, and a very reliable closer in Liam Hendricks, and that's kind of something that not a lot of teams can really say that they have. So that's a definite strength for Minneapolis. Catcher here, not great. I'm noticing that there's not really a lot of good catchers in the National League right now, because that's not a great catcher there. Gavin Sheets is this team's first baseman. A little bit of a younger player here. Got good contact and power versus righties, but struggles against lefties a little bit more on the defense. Is not great here for Gavin Sheets, so we'll see how he stems. And then last year's Rookie of the Year, and in real life, is Jonathan India, and he's their overall best second baseman. And then they also have Luis Arias, who great contact versus righties, really good at discipline, and I think Arias is one of those guys that's going to be very glitchy. He doesn't, not going to hit home runs, of course, but he's going to get on base, and he's got some glitchy stats there. So a couple of pretty good young second basemen here, actually, for the Minneapolis Millers here. And then third base is Eugenio Suarez, who hit a lot of home runs last year, and he's got good power at a 90 and 83. The defense is not great for him, but last year, again, was really good for the Reds. That's the team that he played for last year. And then the star of the team here is Fernando Tatis Jr., one of the better rated players in this game, and of course, in real life, just like Vladdy, one of those guys that is already a superstar in real life. 23 years old also as well, and he's got even better hitting stats actually than Vladdy does right now. 99 and 96 power. The durability is a little bit of a question for him. He's struggled with injuries early in his career, but he's Fernando, and as long as he stays on the field, he's going to be amazing. So they do have Tatis there. He's going to be a huge centerpiece to this ball club. Really excited to see what Fernando can do in this franchise. And then moving over is left field is going to be Chris Bryant. But he stats against lefties and an overall of 85 here in this game. He's decent there. And then Michael A. Taylor, center field, not great. A.J. Pollock, not great there in right. So you got Bryant, you got Tatis. I think overall, the pitching might be a little bit sketchy. The bullpen does look pretty good, and overall, it's a decent team here in Minneapolis. But yeah, definitely Tatis is going to be the player to watch out for here for this ball club. All right, so now we're going to move on to the St. Louis Sluggers, and we saw there this team is actually ranked second in the entire league. So apparently this game thinks that they're pretty good. Let's take a look at their roster here. Lance Lynn is their ace at 87 overall, and then Yu Darvish here at 85. Tristan McKenzie is also in this rotation. Overall, they don't have an over 90 pitcher overall, and it's an all right starting pitching staff. It's not necessarily the best. I don't know if I like their pitching staff all that much, but they do have Edward Cabrera, who is in that Marlins franchise that is on the channel. So we'll see. It's all right pitching rotation, but not a necessarily great one. So we'll see if that's really in the offense where they are. That is why they're highly rated here. As Ryan Tepera is this team's best relief pitcher here at 34 years old and 82 overall. Jonathan Holder, not great there, and not great closing pitching at all. Mitch Garver, he's actually got decent hitting stats, honestly. He's got pretty good power, decent contact for a catcher. We'll see how he does in sim. It might not work out sim-wise. He might not be all that great in the sim, but he's got some actually decent hitting ratings for a catcher. So we move over to first base, and this is a big player here that they have is Matt Olson. 97 power versus lefties, 87 versus righties. He's one of the better first basemen in the entire league, and should be a really good offensive player for the St. Louis Sluggers in this save. One of the better first basemen out there, 28 years old and 90 overall. And second base is Brandon Rogers, who is 25 years old and 78 overall. So he's a little bit older, but he does have a potential. So there is still a lot of room for Rogers to grow and get better in this save. So we'll have to see how he does with that. But he is this team's starting second baseman. And then third base is Brian Anderson. Not a whole lot here. He does have a potential, but he's already 28. Brett Beatty is also on this roster. He's got a potential. And then at shortstop, Leibniz Diaz, not very good at all. Only see potential. So going to quickly move over him. But then Giancarlo Stanton there's a left fielder. Probably will be the DH. I'm just taking a wild guess because his fielding ratings are not very good. But he is one of their better hitters here. A lot of power from Stanton, that's for sure. And a good outfielder to have and a good DH to have here for this team. And then Harrison Bader, who actually does play for the Cardinals in real life, is a starting center fielder right now. But then you got Julio Rodriguez here, a top prospect, one of the best prospects in the entire game there, sitting in center. Then right field is Adam Duvall. So, and overall, a decent outfield. And, I think a lot of these teams are very, very even. So it's hard for me to say if they truly are the number 2 team in baseball. I don't know if I really see it. I think their lineup has a lot of power. But overall, it's not an incredible team here. Taking a look at Julio Rodriguez's stats, he might not start the year in the majors. Probably will be called up at the deadline, though, or at the September call-up period. But he's got some decent stats for sure. All right, so now we're going to get to the National League West, which has a lot of teams that we kept from the last franchise in MLB Show 20. And one of those teams is the Las Vegas Gamblers. And this is what this team looks like here. Corbin Burns is this team's big ace. And, man, he's got great ratings, already 94. Overall, only age 27. He is one of the best young pitchers in the league. And won last year's Cy Young Award in real life. So, yeah, this guy is a very, very good pitcher here, and he will be a good pitcher for a while in this state, probably, still very, very young. And other than that, here this pitching staff, a little bit weak, as Sean Manaea is their number 2. Miles Michaelis here is also there, and then Juice Smiley. So, overall, a decent rotation. It's really all about Corbin Burns, though, on this roster. Then we got to relief pitchers here. And we get to Phil Maton, who's an 80 overall, 29 years old, big potential. Overall, all right bullpen here. Nothing too crazy. Caleb Theobar is also in that bullpen. Jorge Alcala, he's a little bit younger at only 26. But, overall, I just say, a decent bullpen here, not anything super crazy. And then we get to the closing pitchers, and nothing too great there, as Rowan Wick is there. Then Logan Rogers, I think he's also a created player by the CPU, but he's also there, with 25, but overall, that's a snapshot of the pitching on this team. And then we get to the position players here, and it's Yan Gomes starting at catcher. 86 contact versus lefties, that's good. All of the rest of his stats, though, not that great. But they do have Harry Ford, who is, B potential, and only 19. So, he's one of those guys that could certainly get better with time. But that is a look at their the catcher position here. Then we go to first base, and their first baseman is going to be Rhys Hoskins. Good power, decent contact, an 80 overall at age 29. And I know on the MLB this show 20, this is one of the guys that really took off and became a really big powerhouse name. But not sure if that's going to happen again here in this franchise. And that's one of the things about franchise that I really like, and that's one of the things about this franchise that I'm going to really enjoy seeing is, there are some established stars that we're going to see that are obviously going to play good pretty much no matter what. But there's also a lot of guys where, you just don't know the randomness of the sim. Like, We can have guys that we think have good ratings not play very well, as Tommy Edman, this team's second baseman. Good defense, decent contact, but we could also have guys that, just don't really have great stats that could just kind of come out of nowhere and really surprise us and take the league by storm. So I like that aspect of franchise as well, is that you never really know how a player is going to perform and if, a player is going to be good in the sim. So Brian Hayes here as a really promising third baseman. Got already amazing fielding stats, by the way, and is only 25 years old and has a potential. Very, very good and reliable third baseman here for Las Vegas. As we move over to shortstop, and Miguel Rojas is this team's starting shortstop. Of course, in the Marlins franchise, he is the shortstop for Miami, and in real life, good defense. That's really about it for him. But then they also have Brian Rocchio, who is 21 years old and 70 overall. He's going to be this team's starting shortstop and might play on the major league team this year. We'll have to see. But definitely one of those guys that is going to, be making an impact in the majors in a very short while. And then we go into left field, and it's another Marlins player here in Jorge Soler. And Soler, he's playing well in our Marlins franchise, but we'll see what he does in this save, as he's got, again, good contact, or good power ratings actually. And then Brian Reynolds here in center field. He is actually not. I gotta kind of explain that, but yeah, Brian Reynolds in center. Then we get to right field here, and Whit Merrifield is the starting right fielder. So, a decent outfield here for this team. Brian Reynolds will not actually be their starting center fielder because I'm going to have to explain that probably in another video, but that's not actually going to be who the starting center fielder is. But their starting center fielder is still a good player. I can't remember who it is off the top of my head, but Lance McCullers Jr. here is going to be this team's ace here for the Rattlers. And unfortunately, the Rattlers don't have the best team right now. They're one of the lowest ranked teams according to the game, and you can kind of see why, because this pitching staff is not good. And, I've heard that statement a lot in the past, being a Rockies fan, but yeah, not a very good pitching rotation at all, and especially in Coors Field. You need a good pitching rotation, and this pitching rotation just does not have a lot of talent. So we'll have to make do with that. But now we go to the bullpen here, and we have Will Smith, who's 32 years old, 80 overall, and big potential. He's decent. All right. And then Jordan Romano, not a good bullpen really either. The pitching is definitely going to hurt this team, I think. Not great pitching at all. But Wilson Contreras, a pretty decent catcher here. He's got some pretty decent ratings, got really good fielding ratings. So Contreras is one of the better catchers around. That's a plus for this team. They also have Francisco Mejia, who's 26, but does have a potential. So they also have him to turn to if they need. And then we go to their infield here, and Bobby Dahlbeck is their first baseman. Not a great stat line there for Dahlbeck. Just pretty much okay there at first base. And then second base is Andres Jimenez. Great defense. Not any hitting stats really at all, so we'll probably struggle offensively. Not a great second baseman there. As we move over to third, and their third baseman is Josh Rojas. And as you can see, the offense, it's not looking too great so far. And overall, the team not looking too great. I don't think this team got a very high draft pick. As Carlos Correa, one of the better hitters on offense and one of the better players on the entire team here, and got great hitting, fielding ratings. Got good hitting ratings for sure too, but The fielding is really where it's at for Correa. They also have Jackson Merrill here, 18 years old, and he's a good prospect at 70 overall. Third base back. I think I kind of skipped third base there as we kind of just. I don't know. I can't remember who the third baseman is. It's not very good though. I don't think so. Left field also not great either. Seth Brown is their starter right now. He's just very decent, not very anything special. Victor Reyes, center fielder. Also, not too great. And then their right fielder is going to be Mookie Betts, and he's their best overall player here at 92 overall. He's one of the better well-rounded players in all of the league. Good hitting ratings, very good fielding ratings also. He is definitely this team's best hitter and probably their best player. So, hopefully he can hit a lot of home runs in a Mile High Stadium. But, this team not very good, I would say. The pitching really, really probably going to struggle in that department for sure. And the offense, besides Mookie Betts, is also not very deep at all. All right, now we get to the Salt Lake City Bees here, and Jack Flaherty is this team's ace, an 87 overall pitcher, only 26, pretty young, and does have a potential. He's got some decent stats there. 90 hit per 9 is pretty dang good. Pretty dang good pitcher here for the Bees, and an overall kind of underwhelming pitching staff. They do have Adam Wainwright, who is 40 years old. He's not going to be in the league for that many years at all after this year. This year might even be the last year that we see him. But Chris Bassett is also there. And then you do see a couple of prospects here, like Jack Leiter, drafted last year out of Vanderbilt. He's got very decent hitting ratings pitching ratings across the board. Only 21 years old, so a good prospect for the Beast to build around. And then they also have Sam Bachman, 22 years old and 68 overall with B potential. And overall, a alright pitching rotation, but not anything too crazy for the Salt Lake City Bees. And then we go to relief pitching here, and one of the better relievers here is Taylor Rogers. Very good relief pitcher, and really the only thing that he doesn't do very well is K per 9, which is, in my opinion, kind of the least notable stat. I would take being really good at everything else and not being good at K per 9, because he's going to be able to limit hits a lot, and really a good relief pitcher there will probably be this team's closer for sure. And then we, get to catcher, and Elias Diaz, not a very good catcher, and not great there. And then C.J. Cron here at first base. Now, as a Rockies fan, really love C.J. Cron, and he's having a great offensive year right now. And he's got good hitting ratings. So, hopefully I would really love to see C.J. Cron kind of pop off in this sim, but we'll have to see. He was actually pretty good last season, and so, we'll see what he does in this franchise. I hope that he plays well. He is this team's first baseman, though. And then we go to second base, and it's Nick Madrigal, 25 years old, doesn't have any power, but does have 95 contact versus lefties and 98 vision. Some good contact ratings for him for sure, and decent fielding ratings. So, it'll be interesting to see what he can do. I mean, his basic job is getting on base, so we'll see how good he is at doing that this year. And then third base is going to be Joey Wendell. Not a great player there. Andrelton Simmons is their shortstop. Geraldo Perdomo is also here, though, and not any power. He has literally no power at all. And then the outfield here, we go to the outfield is Lazaro Armenteros is the starting left fielder right now. But the big player here for this team, you saw him in the intro video, is Ronald Acuna Jr. He's, out of the three guys, out of Acuna, out of him, Vladdy, and Tatis, he is the best of all three. 24 years old, got injured midway through the season last year, but as long as he doesn't get injured again, this is probably the best hitter in the entire league right here. Acuna Jr. is just absolutely ridiculous. 97, 99 power, 86 contact, 74 contact. Got really good fielding stats too. Ronald Acuna Jr. just probably the best overall hitter in the entire save. So a really, really big player. And I really love, all three of those guys are in the same league, but it is going to be interesting to see, out of Tatis and Vladdy and Acuna, which one performs better overall in the franchise. And also Juan Soto, he's in the American League. We'll introduce him in the next episode. But Teoscar Hernandez is in there and right. Got great power ratings. And so the outfield here for the Bees looks pretty dang good, as you got Acuna. And you have, oh man, I just read off his name. Wow, I got a brain fart there. I just read off his name. Oh, you can go back in the video about 20 seconds. And Teoscar Hernandez, that's who it was. So you got those two guys who are both good hitters. Left field, a little bit to be desired. But, overall a decent team with not a lot of depth in the lineup and not great pitching. But they do have Acuna, so it's kind of funny, though, because Acuna, if you remember, started his career in MLB The Show 20 in our franchise, actually as a member of the Bees. So I guess Acuna just really likes playing for the Bees in this sim. That's just his team that he really likes to start out with. So it's interesting that in the draft, the Bees also got their chance to pick him up. I think they were the second pick overall in the draft, if I can remember. But yeah, pretty funny how that worked out, where Acuna was on the Bees to start for both of the franchises in MLB 20 and this one. And then we are going to go to the San Diego Sharks here. And I did change this team's road jerseys. You'll see that later. But here's their starting pitching staff. And I do kind of like this team's starting pitching staff because it's got a lot of youth in it here. As Julio Urias is their ace, and at only 25 years old, he's super young, and has already put up 3 pretty good major league seasons. A very solid pitcher here for San Diego. I'm pretty excited to see what Urias does. And then following up him is going to be Michael Kopech there, as you can see. And, he's 25 years old, so he's pretty young, and he's got peak potential. Jameson Taillon also with 30, at age 30 and 81 overall. They also have Luis Patino here at age 22, and if you can remember, he was on the Sharks team in the MLB Show 20 franchise. So another player that didn't actually end up switching teams in this draft, which is really interesting to see. I like that kind of that narrative. But that's their pitching staff. A couple of young pitchers, and an overall a decent rotation. I would say that I kind of overall like this team the most out of the teams in the NL West. But let's take a look at the rest of this team here. And relief pitching here is going to be Aaron Bummer, as he's their best reliever. And he's got some pretty good ratings here at 78 overall. And, at age 28, still has a chance to grow and get better. You got Josh King, Ryan Stanek, Paul Fry, and then their closing pitcher here, Emmanuel Clase. A huge pickup for this team. One of the best, probably the best young reliever in the entire league. Only 24 years old and already an 86 overall. Clase last year in 69 innings was basically untouchable. He was one of the best relievers in the league. So this is a guy that, man, he could just turn into a crazy, crazy good relief pitcher here in this save. So very, very exciting player here for the Sharks. Makes that bullpen 10 times better, basically. And then we go to their catching here. And Mike Zunino is the team's starting catcher. Great power, 90 power versus righties, 99 power versus lefties. The only question is if he's going to be able to actually make contact with the ball. As last year, really bad average, bad on base. But, he does have that home run potential. Max Muncy here is this team's starting first baseman, one of the best first basemen in the league. Incredible power, 91, 97, 96 power off the charts. And, only 31 years old, so a very good first baseman here for San Diego. And, Max Muncy looks to be a pretty big force in this save for sure. And then move over to second base, and Jorge Polanco, who is, kind of one of those players that doesn't have an incredible ratings, but always seems to do pretty good in franchise. I know he did pretty good in the MLB 20 franchise that we did. So he's there, 20 years old. Kevin Biggio is also on this roster behind him at 26 years old. And then we go to third base. Eduardo Escobar here is his team's starting third baseman. He's an 84 overall. He's got some pretty decent ratings. They do have a couple of good prospects here, though, at third base, including Austin Martin. And then Curtis Mead, who is probably a player that, a CPU-created player, but Austin Martin, really the big real-life guy to focus on there at third base. And then at short is Dansby Swanson, 20 years old, 78 overall, decent ratings here for Dansby. So, we'll have to see how good he can do in this franchise. And then we move over to the outfield, and there is Ian Happ, who has a potential. So he's got a lot of chances, a lot of opportunity to get a lot better here in this save, and he's already got pretty good power versus righties there, good discipline. I think Ian Happ is one of those guys that I've seen Ian Happ just pop off in franchise before watching some videos. So, I think Ian Happ could very well and pretty easily just hop off in this franchise and be a very good player here for the Sharks. So, good start to their outfield. Center field, Brent Phillips, nothing really to say there. Great defense, incredible defense, basically 99 defensive stats. But yeah, the bat, just not really there for him. And then Dylan Carlson here, a super young player that's already got really good stats. 23 years old and already 95 contact versus lefties. One of the other really exciting young players here in the major league. So Dylan Carlson here, ready to make a very big splash here in this custom franchise. So overall, pretty decent team. I like this team. I think their bullpen is pretty decent. I think their offense is also, pretty decent. I do think that overall, it is the best team in this league, and they actually are third ranked in the entire league. So the game itself would seem to back that, and my opinion on that. So now we move over to the final team in this division, and it's the San Francisco Spiders, as Charlie Morton is this team's ace here, 38 years old, and an 87 overall pitcher. So very old. Gonna probably decline in the next couple of years and probably will not be able to pitch for crazy long time in this save, but he is there. Joe Musgrove, who, awesome moment when he threw a no-hitter last year for the Padres, but he is also there as an 84. And then Flexen, Lorenzen, and then Sensatella. Not an amazing pitching rotation for sure, but a decent one though. Jamie Padilla, a created player, and then Ryan Pepio, who is a real-life player. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his last name or not, but he's already on the older side. But overall, an alright pitching rotation. It's not anything super special, I don't think. But that is the starting rotation there. And then we move over to the bullpen, and the bullpen not great here, especially when we look at just the relievers. And they do have James Karinchak, who has a potential, and is only 26, got 99 hit per 9 and 99 K per 9. So I think James Karinchak is gonna play well in this save. He has got a lot of potential, and he's got some already pretty good stats here. So he's their best overall relief pitcher. And then we go to catcher, and Kirk Casale is there, but the starter here at their catcher position for them is going to be Adley Rutschman. 24 years old, good hitting ratings across the board. This is a guy that should be a future star in real life and in this game. I really am excited to see what Adley Rutschman can do in this save. As he's got, basically almost 60 hitting ratings across the board. I think he's one of the guys that I can really say, right now, if I could guess who's going to win, Rookie of the Year, I think Adley Rutschman is going to be at the top of that list. He is a very, very solid young player here for the San Francisco Spiders. And then we get Trey Mancini, really great story. That guy had cancer, and he battled back to get back in the major leagues. I really like that story, and I like Trey Mancini as a player. And then our custom franchise in MLB The Show 20, man, he really took off, and he became one of the best hitters in the entire league. Actually won an MVP award in that save. But Ozzie Albies is this team's best hitter overall here at 91 overall, and he's got a 99 contact versus lefties. And really good hitting stats overall here for the Spiders. So, we'll see what he does here in this save. I do like his stats a lot. And he's going to be, the biggest guy to focus in on offensively for this team, for sure. And then we go to third base. And third base is going to be Patrick Wisdom. Really incredible power here for Patrick Wisdom with 93 power and 87 power. So, I got pretty good defensive ratings, actually, as well at third base. But, overall, good player here for third base. Shortstop is Edmundo Sosa. It was honestly not that great. But then we get to the other players here, and Jeremy Pena is there. And Jeremy Pena making his rookie year in real life, and he's been pretty good there in his rookie season so far. And actually, I'm going to take the time here to raise up his stats because I do think that the game doesn't really have him fairly rated right now because he's playing pretty well in the majors. So I did go in and raise Jeremy Pena's stats just a little bit. And then we move over to left field, and Tyler O'Neill, one of the better young players in the franchise at only 26 years old, and he's got good power, good fielding, pretty decent contact. He's a good player there. And then Starling Marte is this team's center fielder, and then Michael Conforto there in right. So a pretty decent outfield and an overall decent team. Again, I think the Sharks are the best team in the league, but that is going to do it for this episode, guys. That is the American League or National League recap. Stay tuned for the National League recap coming up. You've been listening to Lucas from Mars. Remember to subscribe to this channel and have a great day, everybody. I'll see ya in just a little bit. Peace out, guys.